大家好，我叫子兰，I will be using English. I was at Shanghai American School for my first 2 years of high school, and then I transferred to Forest Ridge School of the Sacred Heart for my latter 2 years of high school. For reference, Forest Ridge is a Catholic all-girls private school in the Seattle area in the US. I graduated high school with a 3.93 on the 4.0 unweighted GPA scale, and I had a 1560 SAT score. In college admissions, I was admitted to the University of Washington for computer science, as well as Northeastern and Carnegie Mellon. I was initially waitlisted by Caltech, and then later admitted off of the waitlist. And I will be attending Caltech in the fall. So regarding interface, I joined 我加入过 in ninth grade. And so the main reason why I joined was because at the time I didn't really know what I was doing in high school. And my parents also did not really know how to give me guidance as they didn't go to college in the US. So my mom kept hearing from other parents about how helpful interface was. So she suggested that I give them a try, and I am glad that I did. So I think that the merit of joining Interface so early on, a big merit of that was that they really instilled in me how important it is to have good time management skills. I remember a lot of my first assignments at Interface all revolved around planning and making good use of my time, which I think served me really well all throughout high school. And throughout my time in Interface, all of the counselors that I encountered were very, very knowledgeable, and they are all very, very dedicated to their craft. So something I also appreciated about Interface as a whole was the really, really healthy manner in which I think they approach preparing kids for college admissions. They really heavily encouraged me to do what I enjoyed, not necessarily what would look good on an application. And so I was encouraged to explore deeper into anything that I enjoyed and thus figure out what I wanted to pursue when I went into college. I also very, very deeply appreciated how much respect I was treated with that interface. I was treated like a mature young adult, and my counselors were all very, very supportive of me. And so going into sort of counseling at interface throughout high school for me, a very important piece of guidance that my counselors gave me that I'm sure is now common knowledge is that it's very important to have summer plans. It's very, very important to make good use of your summers and to do something productive, essentially. So my counselors, Katie Jane and Kathleen, were very, very helpful in my search for summer opportunities. They helped me search for summer programs and internships that would appeal to me, as well as helping me tackle the applications, mostly essays, for said programs. So especially for the summers after my ninth grade and 10th grade years, I really didn't know what to do in the summer. So my interface counselors were actually extremely helpful in ensuring that I did something productive that would help me learn and help me eventually add to my college application, while also making sure that I enjoyed doing it. And so moving on to the activities list, my activities list, I was always really, really busy throughout high school doing a lot of things. So what happened was my counselor had basically suggested that I do everything I wanted to. So I did it all. I basically did a lot of exploration in ninth grade. I basically did anything and everything that at all piqued my interest. I really liked sports. So in ninth grade, I was playing volleyball and tennis, and I did fencing. I really liked art, so I also went to an art studio every single Saturday for 4 hours. My counselor suggested that I participate in a lot of clubs at school, so I did. I was in a service club as well as a math club and a science club. I was also a part of the school newspaper because I really enjoyed writing and I really liked to edit what other people wrote. I eventually became an editor at that newspaper. So, academically speaking, ninth grade was also when I really started thinking about, okay, what do I want to study? It's time to really look. So I knew that I really liked math and physics in ninth grade. So I told my counselor that, and she was like, okay, take more STEM classes, take more math and physics, and let's look for summer programs and internships that would be interesting to you. And so starting in 10th grade was when I really started narrowing down my activities to the things I really liked and was dedicated to. And by the time I was in 11th grade, I wasn't doing quite as many diverse activities, but it was just the main things that I really liked, and I was dedicating a lot of time to those few things. So, as an overall overview, the things that I did throughout high school include some internships, some research papers. I played a lot of volleyball. I ran a STEM club at my school. I was a volunteer tutor at the local library, and I took college courses at the local college, as well as doing some competition math. I did the AMC for many years. In terms of once I entered 11th grade and I started trying to figure out what my college list was going to look like, which colleges I was going to apply to, my interface counselor, Kathleen, actually gave me a lot of freedom and autonomy with my college list. She was very, very supportive of me, and I really, really appreciated that. She really respected that I knew what I wanted. Her main request was that I applied to a few safety schools, which I think is very correct, and I think everyone should apply to a couple safeties. Kathleen knew me really, really well, actually, so she had really good suggestions for, okay, I think you should look into this school. I think you'll like it. So she suggested that I apply to Reed College as a safety. She thought that Reed would be a great fit for me, and she was correct. I agreed with her. So I applied to Reed, and I did get in. I also applied to the University of Washington as a safety because I am an in-state applicant. I loved UW and their computer science program is very, very strong. Other than UW and Reed, I mostly wanted to apply to T20 schools and shoot my shot at a lot of schools, which is a strategy that I now have mixed opinions on in hindsight. But Kathleen and other counselors that I worked with, they really respected what I wanted and they supported me, which I could not have appreciated more. So moving on, what I think made me stand out, there were a few things. So first of all, I think having initiative and showing that I had that initiative through my college application was really, really beneficial to me. So I went to a Shanghai American School for my first 2 years of high school. And then I went to a really tiny underfunded school for 2 years, which was my high school here in the States. Ironically, the years I did the most were actually at my small high school. I took the initiative to take the hardest classes that were offered, and then I went even further by taking classes at the local college. When I was looking for research opportunities, I actually cold emailed hundreds and hundreds of college professors, and I eventually got one such research opportunity. I got an internship, and I basically grabbed at any and all STEM opportunities that were offered at my school. And I think having that initiative to take advantage of what's offered to you and even reaching above and beyond is something that helped me stand out and would help any applicant stand out. The next thing I think were my activities. I think I really enjoyed and cared really, really deeply about the activities that I did. And they taught me a lot, and I think they were able to really show who I was in my college apps. So the internships that I did basically taught me a lot of practical skills, which I then applied to research that I did, which showed how much I love learning and how much I love the sciences. And leading my school's STEM club, for example, taught me a lot about effective leadership and things like taking courses at the local college and pursuing competition math showed that I was motivated and that I had drive. And I played a lot of volleyball as well, and I skied a lot in the winter in my free time. So just doing these things that I enjoyed and having these kinds of hobbies also that I would list in my college application, these things also contributed, and they showed that I was a human being who can enjoy life and has hobbies. I also think something to note that definitely helped me stand out was that I have some unique life experiences. So I was applying as a Washington state resident, but I had the really interesting experience of having lived abroad in China for 8 years. I went to a Catholic all-girls school for 2 years of high school, which is also a unique experience. I also lived alone in America for about a year, and not that many 16 to 17-year-old high schoolers live alone, so that was another unique experience. And basically, I was able to take these experiences and write some cool essays, which I think helped me stand out. Which leads me to my next point. I think good essays are really, really important, and I think my essays were really what helped me stand out. My counselors actually really, really helped me with editing and perfecting my essays. I don't think my essays would have been as good without them. In general, it is a must to have good essays in college apps. Essays really are the most personal and human part of the college application. And I think they were the one place I could really express who I was. And I think I was able to represent myself very well through my essays. So I was initially waitlisted and then admitted by my dream school, Caltech. The most personal essay that I wrote throughout college applications was actually my waitlist update slash love letter to Caltech. When they admitted me off of the waitlist, actually the Caltech admissions office gave me a phone call to let me know that they were letting me in. And through the phone call, they let me know that they loved my waitlist essay along with all the other writing that I sent them in my application. So that is why I think my essays really helped me get in. Speaking of Caltech, so why Caltech? Um, I first discovered Caltech a really long time ago when I was a little kid. I think I was 9, 10 years old, because I've always had a fascination with space. I really love space. I love astrophysics. I love astronomy. So of course I loved NASA when I was a kid, and NASA has a laboratory called the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which I'll refer to by its acronym JPL. So JPL is actually run by Caltech, and Caltech is overall just top tier globally in the astrophysics field. So starting from when I was like 10 years old, I was trying to keep up with space research being done at JPL and Caltech. And so in 11th grade, when my counselor Kathleen was like, hey, you need to start looking at colleges and doing real research on them, I was like, the first one I thought it was like, oh, Caltech is a college. So that was the first one I searched up. Caltech really quickly became a dream school for me. I just loved everything about it. I loved how small its undergraduate program is. I loved the core curriculum that they have all their undergrads go through. I loved all the research that is done at Caltech. Caltech is obviously top tier in astrophysics, and that's what I want to study. So it made sense that I gravitated towards Caltech. I also really, really love that JPL is there, and I'm hoping to intern there this next summer. There were also various things about Caltech that aligned with my values on a personal level. So my best example of this, which I placed on the slide, was the Caltech Honor Code. So the Honor Code is the main community standard that Caltech abides by, and as a result of it, all exams at Caltech are take-home tests that you complete in your own time. All the labs, everything at Caltech is kept open to students 24/7 with the expectation that you will hold yourself accountable. So it's things like the honor code that showed me that Caltech as a school really, really values respect, honesty, fairness, and trust, which really aligns with my own personal values. And so that's also another reason why I really, really liked Caltech. And overall, how I matched with Caltech, I would say I think my application mostly somehow aligned with what the Caltech admissions committee was looking for. So I actually screenshotted and put on this slide as well. They explicitly state on their website what they look for in applicants. And I think what I was able to do is I was able to look at all these qualities and show that I embodied those. And I think that is also another thing that got me in. So, referring to my most impactful moments with Interface, for me, what I think was my most meaningful moment with Interface was actually the mandatory college essay workshop that I attended in September at the start of my senior year before the college application season. So, in terms of practical takeaways, I went into that workshop with sparse ideas for my personal statement essay, which is the largest essay on the common application. And I came out of that workshop with a finalized essay idea and a rough draft to back it up. In terms of more abstract takeaways, I came out of that workshop a lot more confident than I was going in. I didn't really think that I would be a competitive college applicant, but counselors like Josh and Sonia, who were at the workshop, made me start thinking otherwise. They told me I was a strong writer, which really took me by surprise because I'd heard that Interface's counselors were really straightforward and blunt with their feedback. So I went in expecting a lot of harsh criticism. So I was really surprised when I got a lot of positive feedback instead. And it just really boosted my confidence and it helped me go into college applications thinking, okay, I'm going to do well in this. I felt really, really supportive, which I really appreciate. I also just really, really appreciated with Interface the friendship that I developed with my counselor Kathleen. I kind of put up some screenshots of texts between me and her. I would text her a lot actually. We became really, really good friends. Because whenever we would meet and hop on Zoom and talk, we didn't just talk about my activities, the things I was doing. We'd talk about life. I'd tell her about things I was going through. She would talk about her life. And so we just became really, really good friends. And yeah, with college application season being such a hard time, it felt good to have a friend help me through that. And also, I would bounce essay ideas off of her, and she would provide me with feedback. And that's how I came up with a lot of the ideas that I had for my application essays. As for some advice, my first piece is actually to not blindly chase prestige. So I applied to a lot of the T20 schools, and I actually got rejected by all of them, except for Caltech. And I think that it's not a coincidence that the only schools I got into in general were the ones that I genuinely liked. I actually liked something about them that was not just their ranking. I was genuinely interested in these schools and I got into them. Everywhere else I wasn't as interested in, and so I got rejected, which I think makes sense. I don't necessarily regret shooting my shot at all of those colleges, but in hindsight, I don't think I would have done that. My advice is to not chase prestige and to instead dedicate your time towards applying to programs that you actually are excited about and schools that you actually really want to go to. And my second piece of advice is to believe in yourself. So I didn't accrue a whole resume of awards in high school. I didn't win any competitions. I didn't compete in any Olympiads. I didn't found a startup or anything. I was far from valedictorian or salutatorian. But I did things that I enjoyed. I put time and effort into things I cared about. I didn't have a flashy application that would be a shoo-in for Harvard or Yale, but I still ended up in my dream school. There are so many good schools out there. You need to remember that there are so many schools out there where you can get an amazing education, and there are infinite ways to get into such a good school. As cliche as it is, I think you should be yourself and believe in the fact that if you worked hard, you will end up in a good place. My next piece of feedback, be introspective. Applying to college isn't fun, it's hard work, especially if you're ambitious and where you apply to, you will likely get some, if not a lot, of rejection letters, and rejection can hurt. But I encourage you to try to gain something from the college application process. For many of us, college application essays are really the first time we are ever asked the question, who are you? So I encourage applicants to be introspective and really think about your experiences and who you are. Even though you've only been alive for 17, maybe 18 years, you are a person of substance with a story. So treat yourself in that way and really take the time to properly get to know your gifts. And thereby, not only will you write some great application essays, but you'll also learn a lot about yourself and you'll develop a really, really valuable sense of self and confidence. And my last piece of advice is to enjoy your life. Don't forget that you're in your last year of high school. Spend time with your friends and family. You might not ever live under the same roof as your parents or siblings ever again, and you might not see some of the people that you went to high school with ever again in your life. So savor what are essentially your last moments of childhood. Though college apps are important, though they are important, and through them you are working towards bigger and better things. But in the meanwhile, don't forget that you are currently living through a precious era of time in your life. Thank you. That is all.